go over just a couple of instructions for those who may be viewing in a number of our forums, as well as for participants this evening. Zoom view available for presenters and COAC members, the general public viewing via YouTube live stream. For all of our participants here, of course, we all know the drill, but if you have a question or a comment, we ask that you please use the raise hand feature, and I'll call on you accordingly. And on mute until you are recognized. For COAC members, please keep your video camera on to the degree that you are comfortable. That helps to make for a much more sort of interactive meeting given our virtual setting here. And if you are not a member of COAC, if you could keep your video off unless you are speaking. Next slide, please. Next slide. To go over just our agenda real quickly, the bulk of our discussions, as we've been discussing the past few meetings, will be focused on the diversity plan. We're going to continue to roll up our sleeves relative to the workforce and apprenticeship discussion. We'll receive a presentation from members of the CMGC. We'll have breakout group discussions. We'll do a report out, public comments, and then steps. Next slide, please. For the general public, if you could go back to the prior slide, please. The general public attendees will be in listen mode only. Today's meeting will be live streamed and recorded via YouTube and will be made public on ODOT's project website at i5rosequarter.org. After the breakout group session, the general public is invited to rejoin the meeting for the report back summary, as indicated earlier, and public comment. If you are having any technical issues, you may text or call Mira at 503-479-8674. Next slide. Due to technical limitations of live streaming, members of the public are not able to listen to or view the breakout sessions in real time. However, at 5:20, we will come back to the full group for the report out of each of the small breakouts. Recommendations from each breakout group will be presented and discussed publicly at that time. Recordings of the individual sessions will be posted online once again available after the meeting. Next slide, please. Just a reminder of how we operate our rules of the road with one another. It's for us to let everyone participate by listening to and respecting the diverse views and opinions. Listen with an open mind, for us to value learning from differing perspectives, for us to stay open to doing things, to treat others constructively and respectfully. Next slide. For us to respect the role of the facilitator to guide the group process. Again, my role is to be a neutral facilitator. At times, I may continue to advance our discussions in ways. For us to attack the problem, not the person, and to remember that disagreement, frustrations, and differences of opinion are acknowledged, explored, and addressed. Again, we want to ensure that this is an opportunity for us to bring our full selves and perspectives, lived experiences, as well as professional experiences to bear in order to tackle some of these very vexing challenges. Next slide. Just want to remind folks that we did send out the notes from our July 15th meeting, and just want to take any questions or comments that folks might have relative to those notes. Okay, hearing none, we will progress to the next slide, please. With that, I am turning it over to Megan Channel, our project director for the Rose Quarter project. Megan.
Thanks, Janelle, and good evening, COAC. Good to see you again. I know many of you joined us for Tuesday's joint committee meeting as well, so thanks for spending another evening of your week with us. My update is short and brief, given that many of you were at the joint meeting on Tuesday, but for a quick recap for those that were not able to join us, we did have, again, a joint meeting with the Executive Steering Committee, the Historic Albina Advisory Board, and the Community Oversight Advisory Committee on Tuesday. Kicking off our meeting, the governor's office joined us to provide an overview of how we got to the hybrid 3 highway cover design concept, really to kick off the conversation with the groups to learn more about hybrid 3, answer the questions that we got previously, and hone in on a recommendation for moving forward. So at the meeting, I provided an update on cost and schedule related to the hybrid 3 design. Happy to, we can share those slides with you if you're interested in seeing them. They are available on the Rose Quarter website. But did update on cost related to hybrid 3. We know that hybrid 3 is an order of magnitude of around 1.1 to 1.2 billion. And that would account for 2 to 3 story buildings on top of the highway cover. And then there would be an additional cost for 5 to 6 story buildings on the highway cover. We know that we have more work to do in terms of that cost estimate, building from the preliminary design concept that we have today, and using that information to inform our financing plan, how do we pay for it, what's eligible under state highway funds as we go forward. So that's a clear next step on cost. Also touch base on schedule in that meeting for hybrid 3. We know that it's going to be about 10 to 12 months of additional design work, environmental work, technical analysis, and review. We do see that happening concurrently with the early work package design development. And so bottom line is that we're still staying on track for a 2023 construction start, 2023 start of the work that is really programmed here within COAC around the DBE and workforce program, along with the pipeline building up to that start of construction. We did get some initial input from the committees, COAC included, and we will have a follow-up conversation with our Historic Albina Advisory Board and Executive Steering Committee to formulate the consensus recommendation. For those that weren't there, we did have limited participation from our Historic Albina Advisory Board. So we've shifted some follow-up conversations to finalize those recommendations on the path forward. And then from those, OTC, Oregon Transportation Commission, is set to meet on September 9th. And we'll provide direction to the project team on how to move forward with our highway cover design based on the Historic Albina Advisory Board, ESC, and COAC's input into that recommendation. So that's really update on highway cover pieces, what happened at Tuesday's joint meeting. So with that, Janelle, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. I just want to take a moment to see if there are any questions from members of the COAC. Okay, seeing none. I would now invite Dr. Hope to provide an update from the Executive Steering Committee. Dr. Hope.
Well, hello, everybody, and good evening again to those that were with us just a couple of days ago. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I just want to mention to our technical folks, we continue to receive feedback relative to recording. So if we can get those resolved, that'd be great. Go ahead, Dr. Holt.
Okay, thank you. Megan gave quite a bit of the update that I would share. So we are in the midst of taking the information from the HAB, and once the HAB has gone through its process, apologize about the background. Once the HAB has gone through its process to determine steps that will be communicated to the Executive Steering Committee, and then we will move forward with getting the recommendation to the Oregon Transportation Commission. At this point, the next real movement is the emergency meeting that's happening on Monday. So that's really the update. We're in this process of getting ready for the next steps. It's been quite a journey, and really appreciate the 4 joint meetings that have happened with the COAC and the HAB and the OTC. So the COAC mentioned, or I should say voted or recommended the hybrid on Tuesday, as well as the Historic Albina Advisory Board, and we will move forward from there. I think that's essentially the update.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Holt. And Erica Warren, if you could provide an update from HAB.
Well, there we go. I was trying to unmute and get my camera together. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to just share briefly. Honestly, Megan and Dr. Holt covered the majority of the update from the Historic Albina Advisory Board. Based on our conversation on this Tuesday at the Joint Committee meeting, we will be holding an emergency HAB meeting. And that meeting is scheduled for this Monday at noon. So we'll be looking to formulate consensus around a recommendation and those additional concerns or contingencies, if you will, surrounding moving forward. We're excited about the possibility of really landing and having a collaborative approach to what is possible for this Albina neighborhood in the Rose Quarter. So we thank you for your participation on Tuesday and looking forward to bringing a result to you all after our Monday meeting. It's been a journey together, but we appreciate all of your effort, your investment in making sure that our community benefits on this project. So thanks, Janelle.
Thank you. Any questions from members of COAC relative to those 2 updates? Okay, seeing none. If we can populate the slides again. Great. Next slide, please. Just an overview for our reminder. For the past several months, this committee has really been rolling up sleeves, working with the C relative to workforce and DB participation. You'll recall that in March, we had a conversation with respect to what are the historical barriers that are is really preventing communities of color really gaining footholds in both DBE opportunities as well as workforce. We received a presentation and had a good, robust conversation around the green sheet tool. We'll hear more about that this evening. Then we had the beginning of conversations around tech assistance. In July at our last meeting, we had a robust discussion about apprenticeship and the 20% estimate workforce projection. Tonight, we'll continue a conversation on workforce. And with that, I am going to turn it over, I believe, to Bill Bruce to take it from here.
Sure. Thank you, Janelle. Yeah, just picking up right there for this meeting, we've decided to break subpart C into 2 pieces because there's a lot of content there. And in addition to the content that is in the diversity plan, we want to continue to provide additional information on the assessment that comes out of the 20% green sheet tool. So, and we'll do a portion of that tonight, and we'll do a portion of that in the next meeting as well. So if you recall, in the last meeting, we basically provided you the analysis that came out of the 20% estimate. We got you to a point where we were able to project craft hours by craft hours by contractor. And tonight we want to build upon that assessment in addition to reviewing the first half of the diversity plan content for subpart C. Next slide, please. Terrence.
How y'all doing today? Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, good. So I'm excited to be here. Good to see all y'all as usual. So as always, let's look at our guiding principles related to workforce. So we want to work closely with workforce providers to increase access for underrepresented local populations. We want to work closely with workforce providers to increase skill development through more culturally competent advocacy, mentorship, and workforce retention programs. We want to maximize opportunities at all levels of the project for local minorities and constitute a DB on-the-job training advisory committee of local community members to provide recommendations. As we know, that's COAC. So we came up with this acronym that you might not remember this acronym when it's over, but remember being rare. Because one, we think this is a rare opportunity in construction, and it's a rare opportunity for the joint venture and partnership with Raymore to do something unique and beautiful on this scale. So let's look at this acronym. We want to recognize historical boundaries created by racist policies and discriminatory practices. We want to accept construction's role in this process. We will not ignore the role that construction has played in ostracizing the BIPOC community. We want to redefine what is normal behavior to ensure an inclusive work environment. And with that said, we want to make sure that minorities are treated well and kindly, and that women are treated with the utmost respect in construction. And then we want to put forth a lot of effort in that process. We want to be intentional about hiring, training, and for me, very, very importantly, is protecting that community. So again, we're going to be rare in this. And if you remember anything, just keep that whole rare thing on your mind. We're excited.
You know, we've all spoke quite a bit about the unique opportunity we have here due to the size and duration of this job, really to maximize the benefits for the local workforce. During the pre-construction effort, you know, we're going to work hard to design diversity into the scopes of work, and you know, with Terrence's help, build a pipeline of workers before we get going. You know, during the construction, you know, it's our goal to provide long-term employment opportunities for folks in the construction field. And then, you know, again, we're really here to build something for the future and provide long-lasting careers, not just jobs. Next slide, please.
Mute been kicking my tail all day. Y'all forgive me. So let's look at the pipeline. So with the pipeline is ongoing activity on current projects. So when we look at Raymore and the work we're doing with TriMet in the city of Portland, at SUNT with the upcoming Tualatin H2O treatment project, Hamilton, the work that they're doing in the Dows and various other projects, and looking at all the other companies and partners that we have in the Portland metro area that's doing work, I telling y'all, we are already building pipelines. Everybody is committed to getting the BIPOC community working, and I'm really blessed to be a part of that. So we just want to continue to build that pipeline in a strong way and then support those individuals that's a part of it to get ready for I-5.
So through our diversity plan, these are the measures we plan to achieve. Does my mic sound funny?
Sounds fine, Rihanna.
Okay, thanks. So through our diversity plan, we plan to create a project-specific assessment of workforce hours by trade and disaggregated. We plan to better define trades with historical deficiencies and diversity. We plan to build a consensus on our approach between the HSJV, ODOT, and COAC. And I think everyone can see how confident and how much we believe in this plan, and we want to make sure that everyone else believes in it just as much as we do. We want to develop cultural competency program to create a culture of inclusion and improved retention. We want to educate our project workforce on best practices, specifically looking and helping to support people of color and underserved populations, and providing them with the right mentorship to be successful in construction, not only in the field, but also in the office and managerial type roles. We want to ensure the project team reflects a diverse workforce with recruitment from the historic albino community.
All of us here, on the team, we're highly committed to this important work of maximizing employment opportunities for BIPOC and underrepresented individuals. Again, as stated, early on here, we're going to have a high focus on recruitment and getting ready to go, make sure we're equipped to hit the ground. And during construction, your retention is a high area of focus. We want to create a desirable environment really to foster high levels of retention and also be working to promote people so that they can have long careers and gain experience in construction and, and earn high paying wages for a long time.
So these are the workforce targets we're looking at. So these workforce diversity targets apply to the workforce of all employers on the project, regardless of the contract size. So we're looking at 25% of our total project hours for minority males and 14% of our total project hours for women. Our project team is also committed to working with the tribes to achieve our TERO goals assigned to this project. So we plan to do this by attending workshops with both the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde and the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, and by maintaining an active TERO certification.
So disaggregated reporting. Our commitment will target a minority male and female workforce and provide disaggregated reporting throughout the project by trade as follows: African American, Black, Native American, Hispanic, Latino, and Asian Pacific Islander.
So before Bill talks about our projected hiring needs, we thought it would be good to provide a recap of our summary results from the 20% design green sheet tool analysis that we did. So from that analysis, we determined that there are going to be 1.4 million total craft hours on the project. And if you remember from there, we were able to separate that out into the different trades among carpenters, concrete finishers, iron workers, laborers, operators, truck drivers, and electricians.
Thank you, Brianna. To answer Lee's question real quick, those targets listed on the previous slide are overall goals prescribed by the state. So to continue where Brianna left off, we also broke the hours down by the prospective entities, namely the joint venture projected to perform 500,000 of the craft hours, mini primes projected to perform 250,000 hours, Raymore also a mini prime, another 250,000 craft hours, and then the remaining subs, both DBE and non-DBE together, equaling 350,000 hours. So again, the 1.4 million people hours broken up by entity instead of craft. Next slide, please. From there, again, recap from last meeting, we looked closely at those 5 buckets of contractors, and we assessed what portion of the hours we thought were represented by their existing workforce. And we came up to a total of 806,000 for the existing workforce. These are people that we project to already be employed by the entities described in the previous slide. What that leaves us with is what we call the gap, or the projected hiring needs of 589,694 craft hours. Next slide, please. So again, this slide summarizes the entities, and and their portion of the gap. So we're not looking at the whole 1.4 million hours. We're looking at only the projected hiring needs. And for each of the entities, you can see what their projected gap or hiring needs are. The joint venture would need 258,000 hours. Raymore would need 66,000 hours. The other projected mini primes, 132,000 hours. And then other DBE subs at a first tier, 69,000 hours, and non-DBE subs at 62,000 hours. So then what we want to do with the gap is we want to try to turn hours into people or bodies. And to do so, we have to assume a duration. So for this next calculation, we're going to assume a 4-year duration of construction. If we take the 589,000 hours and we divide it by 2,000 hours per year per person, we come up with what would be 284 full-time equivalents. If we take the 284 full-time equivalents and we divide it by 4 years, we come up with 71 positions. So now that we have the total number of positions, we have to have a conversation amongst ourselves about retention. Each one of the entities that you see on this slide has a different rate of retention that is unique to them and their company. So what we did is we assessed that, and we decided that it would be prudent to use a 50% replacement rate to do the overall projection. So the 71 positions that we've come to, we now times by 150% to get a total projected hiring of 106 people. I know this is a lot of information. I hope that you're tracking with me. Next slide, please.
And Bill, if we could just pause for a second.
Sure.
We have received a couple of questions. Lee, I'm going to call on you to ask your question. Then I know we had a question from Michael Birch. So Lee. Lee, did you want to ask your question?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask me to respond to one. But the question I had was regarding the workforce goals of 25% minority males and 14% for women, and whether it was by trade or overall. I think we're missing an opportunity by making it an overall goal, because there's the opportunity to miss some high-paying trades if we don't force the agenda on this project to make everyone accountable to hit those goals. So my recommendation would be to make it by trade.
I think that's a great comment, Lee, and I'll hit it on I'll hit that question on a slide that is coming up. I think that's a great comment.
Thank you, Bruce. And I apologize, I've been absent a few meetings, but I'm back.
Not a problem. And Michael, did your question get resolved by Jeff in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Bill.
Okay, so we're at 106 total hiring with 50% replacement. So now I want to try to break that down between journey level workers and apprentices. So simple math here, 20% of 106 is 21 total apprentices, 85 total journey workers. Again, all this is coming out of the 589,000 hours that we project to be the gap. Next slide, please. So in our previous meeting, we told you that we wanted to hire on a 1-to-1 ratio, BIPOC to Caucasian, to fill the gap. So the slide on the left demonstrates what that looks like. I'm gonna apologize because it's not very useful to show you 50% and 50%. What I really wanted to communicate was the body count. So what a 1-to-1 ratio, and this slide right here is for journey workers. And the previous slide we looked at, there were 85 journey workers. So the body count for a 1-to-1 hiring on the left would have 43 people of color and 43 Caucasian. Okay. So a lot of folks would contend that that's an aggressive, even an overly aggressive goal. So on the right-hand side of the screen, what I did was I made a separate assessment whereby my assumptions were that the joint venture would hire at a 1-to-1 and Raymore would hire at a 1-to-1, and all the other entities, the mini primes and the other subs, would hire at a 40-60 ratio. And you get percentage wise, it comes out 44% BIPOC, 56% Caucasian. And what the numbers would be for people count would be 38 people of color and 48 Caucasian. So I do this to show a range, but I do it with some intent and some objectivity on what I think would actually happen. So the next slide is the same analysis for apprenticeship. And on the left-hand side, if you recall from 2 slides ago, we had 22 or 21 apprentices that came out of the 106 bodies. And the 21, the way that would break down on a 50-50 is you would have 11 and 11 BIPOC and 11 Caucasian. If you broke it down again with the assumption on the right that Raymore and HSJV hired 1-to-1 and all other subs, including the mini primes, hired on a 40-60 ratio, you would end up with 10 apprentices of color and 12 Caucasian apprentices. So I do this to really put a bracket around the numbers. I think when people come into a massive project like this, it's really easy to not be able to put your finger on how many people we're talking about, and until you can understand what the existing workforce is, you can't understand what the gap is, which doesn't allow you to get to the real goal of your hiring practices around the number of people that you really need for the project. So with that, next slide, please.
Sure.
Sure.
We have a question from Joe.
Sure. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I appreciate that. One of the things that I think would be helpful is that you added your narrative. I mean, when I look at the slide, it doesn't tell me much, but when you start talking about the actual number and you spell it out, I would like to recommend that you add that to all documentation regarding the subject. So when you say that,
I understand.
Are you tracking?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And I don't want to diminish what you're saying. The place where we keep this all is in that green sheet tool, which is a spreadsheet. But I understand what you're saying. It'd be nice if there were bullets here that really tracked with the information that I'm presenting to you. So I think we can do it both ways. I think it's important for people to really understand the logic and how analyzing this. And what I hope to do in the future slides is tell you what we're going to do with it, with that information.
Yeah, because here you switch from bodies to percentages to, so if we can just have a consistent messaging around, FTE, the number of FTE, and then how then it breaks into percentages. And we just keep that everywhere we talk about workforce would be helpful.
I got you.
Yeah. And again, let me just chime in and be able to answer, Joe. It is very complex because we're transferring from hours based off of the estimate to actual bodies. So it is a complex analysis that we're doing to come up, and then we're analyzing existing workforce, we're analyzing gaps. So it's a science to it. And I get it, it is very complex, which we expect some tough questions in the thing. We can explain it to you, but it's just a lot. And as we get further along, and once we get people's understand what we're talking about FTEs, whether it's new FTEs or not, it'll just make it a little simpler. So, but I do get your point.
Yeah, Jeff, and if you could just, what's the gap here? So the need. So we're talking about, for example, 10 apprentices apprentices across the board, but
22.
It seems like a small number to me, but I realize that those 10 full FTEs are there are more people that will be brought on to fulfill those needs. But,
right, those are just apprentices, Joe, and that's just.
No, I get that, but from your perspective, what's the gap? Where's the need? So when you look at that number from your perspective, is there a large need? Do you feel real good about that? How do you feel about, maybe just respond to both categories, apprentice and journey workers, based on your experience, based on the goals that we're talking about here? Is there I'm just trying to get a sense, how far away, what's the reach to get there?
Yeah, that's absolutely a fabulous question. It's a further question, but we'll take it. So when you look at 22 for the JV, and what is it, another 22 for everybody else, Bill? You're looking at 40-something apprentices. Is that right? If I get that right?
Let me recap the numbers. The gap hours is 589,000 hours, and the total bodies that equals with a 50% replacement is 106 bodies. And those 106 bodies break down 85 journey level and 21 apprentice. And the slides that are coming up are going to break it down by craft. And ultimately, at the end of this slide deck, we're going to tell you what diversity number comes out of it. And we're going to talk about how we use this information to develop a strategic plan for hiring.
Keep going then, Bill. Joe, can we let us finish out, and then we'll ask questions and break out.
Thanks, Joe. Brianna?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. So this is what our projected hiring needs look like by trade. So of the 106 new hires that we were just talking about, if you break it down by the trade categories, we'll be looking at 33 labor positions, 24 operator positions, 21 carpenters, 10 drivers, 8 iron workers, 4 electricians, and 4 finishers.
So what we've done up to this point is we've really assessed the demand side. What is it that we need in terms of craft? What we haven't talked about yet is the supply side. And so I say the supply side assessment is still in progress. Now, since we all work in construction, we all have our fingers somewhat on the pulse of the supply side. But for this project, I believe it deserves a sort of a special assessment, if you will. So in the future, moving forward, we want to do an intentional assessment of both the journey and apprentice open shop profiles. We want to do an assessment of the journey and apprentice union profiles for those crafts listed. And we already have a pretty good assessment of the 4 pre-apprenticeship group profiles that we currently plan on utilizing. But Terrence is already starting to tap into those organizations to get current assessments of the people that are coming out of the pre-apprenticeship groups that we want to work with. So we've got the demand side analyzed. We want to start getting current assessment on the supply side, and with that, we want to create an outcome-based strategy development, or what I would call an individualized workforce development plan. Another way of saying it is you know what you need. Now you can be strategic about going out and getting it. And to Floyd's earlier point, yeah, now that you know what you need by craft, as Brianna showed you on the last slide, we can be very intentional about each craft and trying to improve or continue their performance, whatever we decide needs to be done by craft. So some people might ask, how's this different than any other project? And what I would describe it to you is that on smaller or everyday projects with everyday contractors, they're coming into a project and they're trying to meet goals, prescribed goals, and they've got their existing workforce, and they do what people call a good faith effort to meet those prescribed goals. Having been on a lot of the projects that have to do well on diversity, we've grown accustomed at not just working towards prescribed goals, but creating this plan. And in order to have this strategic type of plan, you've got to do these assessments. You've got to know what it is specifically that you're trying to do, not just show up to work and try to improve diversity every day generically. So with that, next slide, please.
Let's look at our assessment-based planning. We want to utilize the green sheet projections to formulate plans. Current green sheet projections is between 37% and 31% BIPOC. We're going to look at further analysis to come focusing on craft disparity, further analysis to come based on design progression, and further analysis to come based on subcontractor selection. Hope is not a plan. Utilize projection and then analyze to formulate a plan. That's a quote.
Great. And we'll hold the questions because we're getting close to the end of this section for the breakouts. Who will tell us about our breakout sessions?
That would be me, Corinne Janelle.
Great, Corinne, all yours.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Corinne Villabasso with Ontiveros and Associates. I am filling in for Amber this afternoon. I know we're pretty much familiar with the breakout group process. Just for the public to know that we will be reporting back into the main meeting room at around 5:20 p.m. So we will have 2 breakout groups, so we will discuss the breakout questions in those closed breakout rooms. I just want to let you all know that we have 2 new staff members this evening that's going to be participating and in support. We have Mr. Brett Watson and Amber Smith, also known as Goose. So we want to make sure that you all designate a spokesperson for the report out. Next slide. So group 1 will be Bill Bruce. Group 2 will be facilitated by Jeff Moreland. And I think we're ready to go into, oh, yeah, here are the breakout questions for the evening that we would like the COAC members to consider while in breakout. What recommendations can you offer the CMGC to apply to a retention strategy that can help to increase or improve retention? What recommendations can you offer to improve the overall workforce program? I apologize. I don't think this is the correct breakout question. Amber, do you, we apologize. Brett, can you share your screen with the revised breakout questions, please? There we go. So these are the revised breakout questions. What recommendations can you offer the CMGC to best achieve journey workers and apprenticeship goals? That was outlined in the presentation today. What advice do you have for the CMGC that can be applied to assist with the recruitment and retention strategy in the BIPOC community? And those are the breakout questions for this evening.
Great.
I think we're ready to go into breakout.
Okay, so we may be back at 5:20. And if our tech folks can give folks 5-minute warning prior to having to come back so that it's not such a hard stop. Otherwise, we'll see you all back here at 5:20.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. We'll wait just a couple more moments until everyone has arrived. At this point, we are going to do breakout or report outs. Why don't we start with group number one? Group number one.
Which is that my group, Jonelle?
I believe that's right, Bill. Why don't we go ahead and start with you?
Great. I just want to start by thanking our group. That was some of the best conversation input that we've got thus far. I really appreciate it. And I'm lucky enough, I got Brianna to do the report out. So I'll turn it over to her.
Yeah, anyone feel free to jump in if I missed anything that you said. So Michael Birch started us off asking what is the journey to apprentice ratio on this job. And he made a note that it seems like we're cutting ourselves short with our goal. And Bill made a comment that he thought it was a really good opportunity for us to look at the crafts for this ratio, as Lee Fleming brought up during our presentation. Next, Katrina discussed apprenticeship, and she said a good strategy with this is to make sure contractors are fully utilizing apprentices and not just utilizing them for the amount of hours they need per week on our project. It was also discussed how we got to the breakdown of the different number of people we need by trade for the project. And we discussed further about the green sheet tool and how this looked at this basically took the bid that we created for the 20% design. And within our bid, we have crews made up of laborers, finishers, etc. So we took that and looked at the scope of work for the project and was able to break that down to identify the number of people we need to meet our goals. Hopefully I did that right, Bill. Next, James Posey talked, and he said he is a big proponent of incentives. So he discussed formalizing or creating incentive programs to help new hires, for example, purchase homes. And maybe this is with maybe a program with a bank in order to provide new hires with the loans they need to buy a house, maybe with down payment matches. But basically exploring an incentive-based program to hire people and retain them. The next idea, he said, was to create a program where we put crews out in the field right now to help clean up the highways. And this is a way to help develop people before the project starts. And this would be them running equipment, painting graffiti, helping striping. And this will help crews. This will help to build a database of people to fit into our pipeline that we are looking to fill for this project. Felicia brought up that UFP has an employer-based housing program where they give up to $15,000 for employees to buy a house near the campus. And also they discussed the Emmanuel Hospital program. Basically, we have models that we can use to create incentive-based programs for our project. Next, Christine talked about that these incentive-based programs seem like employee benefits and company programs that we would be using to help to retain employees. She said it seemed like it was more internal to the company, and how can we tie this to ODOT without raising the hourly rates. Next, Michael Birch talked about how do we get how do we reach our journeyman numbers? And he said that he made a comment that it's all tied to retention. So we need to really be intentional and assign apprentices to journey level workers when they come on the project that are passionate about training these apprentices. And that there are lots of opportunities for us to create an environment that these apprentices want to stay in. Next, Katrina discussed talking about the need to build this pipeline of incentives now before the project gets started. For example, to build these programs to keep the apprentice, to build these programs, sorry, to create an incentive program for both the companies and the apprentices to stay on for the entire project, and this will help with retention. Terrence says he wants to make sure if we build this incentive program that we still want to get contractors that want to do the work and not just do the work because of the incentives. And lastly, Christine noted that she thinks that these subcontractors will ultimately have to get these incentive programs set up internally and to have the CMGC help to be the model for that. And lastly, Christine's example for retaining people and helping them grow, she says that within her company, there are different tests or certifications that her employees can get, and just to keep them engaged and to keep them to continue growing. She gave out gift cards whenever they completed a certification, and that would help not only them, but their family and help with retention within her company. And that was all we had time for. Hopefully I did you guys proud.
Great. Any questions for group number one? James Posey?
You know, I didn't get the chance to respond. We ran out of time, but my only comment is we keep doing the same things we've been doing for the last 25 years. We're going to get the same results. So we cannot continue to lock ourselves into the historical context of the way we've been doing business. One of the reasons why I was so happy about Bill NAM is because they know, and they say and they plan, they're going to have to do unconventional kinds of things in order to meet their goal. I don't want anybody to be under any illusions about the task in front of them. It's a huge one. No one has performed this before at the level you guys are even talking about in these numbers. So all bets are off. And one thing I've learned since I've been in this business, and I've been in it for 40 years, you can waver just about anything, and the atmosphere is absolutely perfect to get the kinds of things you want to get that you traditionally have not been able to get. And that's all I kind of want to say. And one other quick thing, that is, and Bill, you know this, retention is based upon a number of people in your organizations that look like you. You are retained if you have, just use Gene's situation, the electricians on the thing. When he has people that look, when you have people that look like you on the job, you have a more, you're more inclined to be retained in that field over time based upon the culture you're surrounded with. That's the retention factor that needs to occur based upon where we're trying to go.
Great, thank you. Let's go to group number two. Jeff?
Yeah, so I'm going to have Joe do the report out. We had a very robust conversation, and suffice to say, we have a lot of creative people in our group in terms of coming up with, talking about unconventional ways. Yeah, we talked a lot. So Joe and then Brett's going to support it.
All righty. So our recommendation, we had a lively discussion, as Jeff said, but my feedback will be rather succinct and hopefully clear with respect to recommendations. I'll echo group one with respect to Lee Fleming. he called out that there should be established goals by trade. And the motive behind establishing goals by trade would be to avoid stacking, if you will, the lower paying trades and push the whole project to make sure that people of color are reflected across the board. So that's one recommendation. Bob Carroll called out and emphasized the need for a comprehensive outreach plan, which I think may be in the works or already completed, but Bob said that was he emphasized that to highlight James in his comments about how tough this will be. He also talked about mentorship both for apprentice and for journeyman. And one of the recommendations that was teased out was through an example, actually, a really good example in the field. I think Teo, did I say Teo? Teo is right?
Tayo.
Pointed out some examples of how there's mentorship before the job and after the job around specific skills and things that folks want to know. And so our and he said it was echoed that is something that happened. So the recommendation was to formalize that across the board. There was also a recommendation about incentivizing for additional classes at the community college level for journeymen. And I got the sense that sometimes journeymen come in and things change over time, and refresher courses would help with retention and performance. We also got into a lot of other, as Jeff said, it was a robust, we talked about daycare and how that's a barrier. We talked about tutoring, how that's a barrier. We talked about the need for mental health services for our workforce. We talked about even life coaches. And I think a recommendation that could potentially address some of those issues was that we want the CMGC to partner with community-based organizations with respect to grant applications to raise money to support their trainees. I can think of the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, is putting out a huge grant that we're going to be applying for with others. It's called the Good Jobs Challenge, and it's tailor-made for a project like this. But if the CMGC would commit to signing on, endorsing community-based organizations who are committed to helping these folks be successful on the job, to put in place things like daycare and mental health and tutoring and financial literacy, so that the community can do what we do best and the CMGC can do what they do best, and in partnership, we build the best opportunity for our folks to achieve success.
Told you it was a lively conversation. Very creative.
Great. Thank you for that. Any questions or comments for group number 2? Okay, seeing none. Thank you for that robust conversation. Clearly, once again, this committee always sort of accentuates why this project is so lucky to have all of you. So thank you for that great feedback. If we could now put back up our slides here, we are going to go into public comment. Corinne, do you know if we have anyone prepared to offer public comment?
We do not, but we would like to go over how they can make a public comment and maybe hold a little pause to see if someone does call in. So if you're viewing on YouTube, we ask that you call in by dialing 971-247-1195 and enter the meeting ID number if you would like to make a public comment. If you would like to call and leave a voice message for verbalizing your public comment, please give us a call at 503-470-3127. Or following the meeting, if you come up with something that you would like to know or have a question, at the closure of this meeting, you may email it to us at info@i5rosequarter.org. Or you may submit it via project website, i5rosequarter.org, and put in subject line, COAC public comments. So I think we can wait just a second to see if someone enters. No public comments at the moment. So it's up to you, Janelle, if you would like to continue or.
Yeah, maybe we'll just wait a couple more moments just in
Okay.
case we have folks. We'll go ahead and progress to the next slide. And then if we get public comment, please just let me know.
Will do.
So Megan, I want to offer to you if you have any closing comments.
I said this in the breakout group, but I think it's worthy to say here in front of the full group as well. But just an acknowledgement of what I perceive as an incredible team that we have here in our joint venture, Hamilton Sunt, in association with Raymore, and specifically Jeff Moreland, Bill Bruce. These guys are the experts with the proven track record of doing what we're trying to do. And so, as I said in the breakout group, ODOT's not good at this. That's exactly why we're here. It's exactly why we have a COAC. It's exactly why we've hired the team that we have. So just want to again express my gratitude for the work that's been done. My God, we have quite an effort ahead of us, but I'm really lucky to be shoulder to shoulder with the team that we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And just a note for COAC, you'll receive more information via email, but we're looking at our next meeting as tentatively September 16th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. At that meeting, we will be wrapping up the remaining elements of the diversity plan. So with that, if there are no other comments or questions, I see one from Joe and I see James Posey. So we'll go Joe and then James Posey, and then we're going to wrap.
I'll defer to the captain, and then I'll.
You should have just said the prettiest, and we would wrap that all up. You know, I got to tell you, Megan and Janelle, these meetings are fantastic. I enjoy the meal, but I'm tired of this, man, because we never get nothing coming back from you guys in terms of formalized things. Joe just mentioned a grant thing that he's going to do. There is, I don't want to sit here and keep going through these meetings, meeting after meeting with no return on investment. When we say these things, we're not just sitting here because we look pretty or we want to be on this Zoom thing. We want to see something come back formalized that's going to show us our input is taken and it formalized, it comes out in black and white. Stop this madness, please.
So we can always depend on you to end the meeting.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm going to tell you the truth.
So thank you for that. Clearly, this meeting was too positive. It was just a matter of time. Megan, I'm going to ask you to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And James, I think on our end, we are doing a lot of the work with the diversity plan development. You're seeing it kind of piece by piece here, getting input, but be assured that the team is working really hard to incorporate COAC's feedback into the diversity plan. But your point's well taken, because if I didn't say that, you would have no idea where your comments are going. So I want to take some ownership in making sure that we're coming back to you and acknowledging what we heard from the last meeting and how it's been folded into the diversity plan, and also being honest on the things that we heard and we can't address now, or we acknowledge that we want to address later, but in partnerships beyond what we can do in the diversity plan too. So we'll do better at that, James. Thanks for the comment.
And Jeff, it looks like you
Yeah,
want
I do. I just want to say,
well.
Joe, I'm definitely interested in talking more, and I'll speak a little bit for the JV, that they're definitely talking more about this grant that you're chasing and seeing how we can, maybe partner, with that, because we know it's some services they're going to be providing that our people can benefit from, right? And I think that anything that we can do to kind of help, those services get available for the people is something I know we be interested in. So let's get together and kind of discuss that in further detail and, see where we can go with it.
Joe?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm extremely excited about getting at these goals with respect to African American people. What I can't wrap my head around is the pace. And I need some help and support in pushing the project. So if someone could, if because I'm willing to make an investment. But the last thing, I don't want to start getting after this and getting folks excited about this opportunity only to be stalled out. I agree. I mean, I can feel how difficult this is going to be, but I'm up for the challenge and I'm committed to the challenge. But I'm trying to walk away with a sense of, when can I start actively recruiting specifically for this project?
Jeff, did you want to respond to that? Be helpful for folks to hear that.
Yeah, I would say we have a lot we're still working through a lot. There's a lot of different parameters, Joe, and I'm having to we just have to get a few more, we have to get more answers, right, where we are, right? There's a lot of things still in flux here. We're all excited about it. We're ready to go for the work, but we just have a lot of things that we're still having to work through from a project perspective, and Megan can talk about that. Right now, we're still planning to get started in 2023. So sometime in 2022 is when we can start turning the faucet on, if we can keep that timeline on track. So as long as we can get early work packages started in 2023, a year prior to that is when we'll start really kind of more actively doing outreach and start turning on the faucet and getting people going. Bill, okay. Matt, or anybody else got any more to add to that?
I just want to chime in on the pipeline. I mean, that one slide where Terrence talked about all the current projects that these contractors are doing. You got the stars aligned here and you got everybody's attention, and we have opportunities right now. They're not, we don't have the faucet turned all the way on, but I keep telling everybody one at a time makes the impact. So I really see that as the work right now. I mean, we got a person of color working out in the Dalles right now, of all places, as a carpenter, and that takes special handling. But I think Terrence is working on a total of 10 people right now. If we can keep that up, that's something I don't want to overlook right now.
I'd like to add to that, if y'all don't mind. So for me, Joe, I'm not, because of some of the stuff Jeff mentioned, I love the community despite I-5 Rose Quarter, right? And I'm given a unique opportunity to be a part of getting young men and women into construction. So I got to do better at reaching out to you and your staff over there to continue to build up, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. You guys are already doing amazing things in that space. So we're not going to downplay that, right? POIC is doing some dope stuff. And so what I have to continue to do is take the amazing resources we have in our community already, right? Because we don't have to wait on white folks to do everything. We're already doing some amazing things. What I believe ODOT has to be and do is start getting ready to partner up with us and start empowering us, just like James is talking about, start extending opportunities to organizations that's already doing the work. We don't have to change, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm with James. I always hear his frustration, that brother, I love him. I would love to see ODOT get into it more, and I think they are, and a lot of stuff is happening. They've even empowered somebody like me to start getting involved by proxy or way more in the joint venture. But we definitely can get them going now, because when you look at the numbers, we do got a lot of work ahead of us to get that many people, especially in our community, to buy in and then not lose them. Right? It's not just about hiring them, but not lose them. And then, as James was talking about, not helping them understand finances, helping them understand how to build for their future. That's something Jeff pushes like tremendous with the brothers that's at Raidmore, like not squandering our money, not being selfish, not thinking about ourselves. And so, yeah, we got work to do. But the pipeline we're doing right now is really beautiful, and we just got to continue to challenge the powers that be to give us more opportunities, so that, as you know, Joe, them brothers that's waiting and waiting and waiting, and them sisters that's waiting and waiting and waiting, we can say, here's some stuff to get y'all going. So I got to get with you. I got to do better to connect with you and try to empower the work y'all already doing, and I look forward to that.
Great, thanks, Shelley.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hey, Joe, I think it was you who mentioned that you're pursuing a grant for POIC to do some work around youth and workforce. And I don't know if it will help, but I just want to offer, we'd be happy to write a letter of support. We'd be happy to, if you found it helpful for us to even use this project and several others as opportunities that, as you're developing your grant proposal, that these might be places where, youth could pursue getting these kind of opportunities. So just let me know, you know where to find me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've done it before with other community organizations like Friends of Trees, when we have jointly pursued grant opportunities with Metro's Nature and Neighborhood programs. And even when we weren't a co-applicant, written letters of support for Friends of Trees as they pursued other types of funding. So I just wanted to offer that. And if we want to work together, like on a draft, and give me a deadline, and me and Megan will get it done.
Thank you, Shelley. Did we have any public comments come in, Corrine?
I don't think so. I see someone from, from Strategies 360. I don't know if they have a public comment or.
No, that's one of our consultants. Okay, with that, I think that covers it for today. Thank you all for your wonderful participation. I hope you all have a great rest of your evening. We'll see you in September. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.